Well, hello, folks. I'm L.A. Little, and this is your daily NeoTA wrap. We take a look at these markets, and we do it from a neoclassical perspective. Each time we ask ourselves what happened today, and what does it tell us about the coming ones. We do a show 4 times a week, every Monday through Thursday, broadcast at or before 10 o'clock Eastern Time, archived on YouTube, available to you there. It's under the channel L.A. Little if you want to subscribe to it, and you'll be notified each time content's pushed to the channel. Speaking of the schedule, of course, this is holiday time, and I will be taking tomorrow off along with Thursday, Christmas Day. Wishing you happy holidays. Hopefully you will enjoy your family and friends, which I intend to do myself, and we'll pick it back up on Sunday as we head into the last week of the year. Speaking of the markets and what do they do? Well, today we saw the index lower along with the composite. They actually went higher and failed. Dow was up 64. Russell was up again. SPX was up again. And, in general, the equities still look pretty good. We'll look at that real quick together. Gold tacked on a few points, but not much. We had the bonds sell off heavy today, 2.5 ticks. That's a huge move, folks. Down 2%. We'll look at that chart. And dollar was up big again, 0.5%, 23.91 on the UUP. Oil also got a bounce up 3%, and we were talking about it. Looked like it was trying to do a bottom, and maybe that bottom is actually in. So let's turn our attention to the indexes and what they look like. We'll start with the S&P 500. Now, the prior high was 2079.47. Today, you get over it, you stay over it. Of course, you have light volume, so it's going to be a suspect breakout, but it is over the top. So the S&P makes new highs and closes at them. Swing point break. Dow Jones, the top there was 17,991. You close over 18,024. Again, light volume. It will be suspect, but it is a breakout. And the Russell, we'll go to that one next, also extends. Excuse me, folks. Now, the Russell actually had 2 swing points, so it's doing a breakout on multiple swing points. Let's do that again. So we have one here, we have one there. We break over on both, right? That gives you 2 to 3 bars. This was the break. This was bar 3. And the top of yesterday's bar is 1201.88. Today you close at 1202.44, so you stay over it. So you don't have an over-under. You do have volume tailing off, but then again, that's what you should expect this time of the year. Those 3, all at highs, all pushing. Russell's trying to push up. If we look at the weekly, it's trying to push up and reach these swing point highs on the weekly. That price point's 1213.55. We got as high as 1207. It still looks to me like that's going to try to push into those levels before it's done. Now the problem is over on the NASDAQ. If we look at the NASDAQ composite, the composite actually went up and tested this swing point high today. That price point's 47.93 and a quarter. We got up there, 47.98. We closed underneath it. That is a test failure of the highs. Says it wants to try to come back. That, if anything, is going to be a tell tomorrow. That's going to be your tell, and the question is going to be can it get back up underneath that low, and, into this gap area. You don't want to see it get back into this gap area if you're long. You have the big volume here. That's this bar. So that's the bar that we should see buyers come in at the bottom of that bar. And to get a price point on that low on the NASDAQ is 47.38. And tonight we're sitting at 47.65. So it's about 27 points lower. Let's look at the NDX, because really the NDX was the one that failed. Now this one's failing in a different way. It hasn't been as strong. The swing point high here, it didn't get to it, 43.20. It got to 43.09. But really the test was these three bars and the tops of those bars. 96, 97, 97, almost 98. Yesterday or the day before yesterday was 43, so you're testing up there. And then you got over on 42.93 yesterday, but today you go higher, get up underneath it. So that's like an over-under. I don't think it's extended enough in terms of extension to call it a 2-bar, reversal, but it is an over-under. Again, this one wants to come back. The low on this one's 42.58, which is what it wants to try to test into. Now tomorrow, that's 21 points lower. Tomorrow is going to be a very light pre-holiday trade, and it's going to be an early close, so you're not going to see much out here. The real issue today was the IBB. The IBB was down 7% at one point, closes down 2.5. Well, it wasn't 7%. There were stocks within it down 7%, so let me correct myself. This one got as low as 306, which happens to be the bottom of the gap up bar, which was 307.20. Notice the volume's heavier. It did trade into this big bar down and closed back over it. That top was 308.43, and I'm talking about this bar. And you got into that and back over it. So it looks to me like more than anything, this is just consolidation so far. And that consolidation is this versus that in terms of ranges. So almost equidistant. And, it tried to test up underneath it and get up underneath it and it couldn't. And it held. Stocks within this group flipped around at the end of the day, started heading back up. But it all started with Gilead yesterday, and Gilead traded down again big today. And if we look at that on the weekly, I was talking about that this thing was going to try to reach back into these highs, and it did. And it's not going to have... Oh, I'm on the NDX. Hang on a second. Let's get... Let me do it this way. All right, here we go. It's coming back into these highs. Now remember, this would be a first retest regen off these highs. Oh, no, that's not true. This one actually had a test right here. So anyway, that high, that top was 84.88, and it got as low as 85.95. But you can see the volumes. It gets up underneath this swing point low. Now if it closes here, this is going to be a break on multiple time frames. So tomorrow, Friday, it's going to be important, at least for this particular stock, to get back over to kind of save face for now. Otherwise, it's 2 to 3 bars on the longest time frame, which is the weekly, which would mean that you're going to see more consolidation in this, or actually more pressure on this particular stock versus consolidation. So that's the that was the culprit. If we look elsewhere sector-wise, let me pop up the sectors. If we look inside these sectors, of course, that was the IBB. But if you look elsewhere, you had some decent strength today again. Here's the IYT. Now this one's coming back up to the breakdown bar one more time. That price point's 165.33, so we're almost there. That will be the test here. I doubt they get over it and stay over it tomorrow. The SOX went up and tried to test into the high. Was pushing decent volume up in there. That tells me it's probably going to try again. So the SOX still looks pretty good. XLB was pushing up on nothing. Decent volume today, but really for what it's going into, nothing. XLE was the standout. Remember yesterday we got a pullback. Well, today back above it, over it, pushing up. Now this is trying to get over and stay over this high, 80.77. Today it does. It gets over it but stays inside of it, 80.72. So right now that bearish retest regenerate is still in place. So it hasn't closed over it yet, and usually even one bar over it, you will want to see it stay a couple bars over it. So tomorrow it's going to have a chance to get up and over it, especially if oil continues to bounce, which I suspect oil will. Let's quickly take a look at the oil chart. And you can see it tries to trade down again today. Can't. This again looks to me like it's going to try to poke back up to the top of this bar, 22.43 on the USO. If we look a little bit more at the sectors, going back to those, XLF testing the top. Now that top was 2507, we got to 2508, close underneath it. That's a test failure, says it should try to pull back. XLI pushes up, test the top. And we're getting a lot of these now that are pushing right back into the top. So that's 7.4, 57.48. You got over it, you close underneath it, and you have 5.4 on it. So again, test failure. So test failure on the financials, a test failure on the XLI, and the IBB is an arranged trade but held. If we move to the XLK, and we had a test failure, remember, on the composite as well. Here's the XLK. Now the XLK, the swing point high here, 42.11, and this one actually closes over it. This one includes a few of the big cap stocks that are moving the Dow, like IBM, for example. And I haven't looked at IBM's chart in a while, but let's quickly take a look at it. And this one's just coming back up to retest regen. And it's over it for 1 bar, so this will kind of be a key spot for it. So as you can see, though, the things that are pushing it now, it's others that are going to have to take over. Here's the XLP, gets over one swing point here. It's trying to get over the other one. 49.42 on that one. Closes at 49.43. It's over it. Has the volume, it looks like. That's another breakout. Another ABCD structure to the top side. XLU has been strong, still hanging at the top. XLV got hit off the biotech. XLV is going to come back and try to break these 2 swing point lows. Let's look at it on a weekly because I think this one's still in good shape. Yeah, it's just going to come back some. And then the last one is consumer discretionary, which has been doing well, and it tests the tops. Got over one yesterday, a swing point, 71.95, closes at 96, has the volume. This is another setting an ABCD structure up. So in general, you got 2 sectors that failed, going to try to pull back. You got the composite failed, wants to pull back. You got the index failed at those 3 bars, pulled back right after getting over them yesterday. That's enough to tell me that we're going to, still have trouble getting much higher right now, especially with the slow day tomorrow. We'll probably get some more push, but I doubt we're going anywhere, right? We're just going to hang now. And that those 2 failures or those 3 failures, what you really want to see is you want to see this market hang and those things just kind of go sideways instead of come back. Build it out, and then next week take it back up again. Let's move over to, let's look at the world markets real quick here. I want to look at just 2 or 3 of them. I want to look at the CACs, and that one's pushing back to the highs, the FTSE also, and the DAX. And all of them are, and all of them are not giving me volumes anymore, which is a pain. And let's see, the large cap Chinese shares testing the tops, and that I'd like to see the volume on that because that looks like a over-under. I'd be curious to see what the volumes were. The Nikkei actually was closed tonight, so it's not going to be anything on that one. And let me look at the chip country at Taipei, and really nothing there. So, world markets look okay. Nothing special there. And since I don't have the volumes to look at, it doesn't do me a lot of good to look at them here. Let's look at the, let's go to the OX sector right quick and see, because this is where we're getting all the movement. So the EEM today sold off, I saw, and actually closed okay. So this is pretty good because this is going to set up that ABCD structure probably to get up. It came back, had a little bit more volume compared to yesterday, but what it's coming back into, is decent. It could get as low as here, but if it hold here, right, that's going to take it right back to the top of the retest regenerate. And so, if you're bullish on this or you want to be bullish on this, this is where you want to see it reverse. It got a little hammer today. A push back now that gets over this B point would give you a shot at the top of that retest regenerate zone, which is where you'd want to see it go to. Now, it has been more than 6 bars, so if it did that, that would actually be an anomaly, abnormal versus the common, right? The common here would be just to get to the bottom and then pull back. We were talking about gold reversed today and was heading back down. Excuse me, that wants to test lower. Let's look at silver. Silver also struggling. That wants to test lower. A lot of that has to do with the dollar. Dollar presses up, and remember we got the breakout a day ago, carried yesterday, more push today. The oil market we already touched on. Let's look at the nat gas. That one actually got a reversal. So you're finally getting a reversal here for a bounce. In this market, on a long-term time basis, if you want to be bullish, you want to see a bounce here. Bonds, we talked about bonds selling off hard. Look at this sell-off tonight. So that's a huge move again. That's like these moves we saw back here. Big spikes to the downside. Of course, you're not seeing much volume. It's a light volume now. But I think I talked about this on the show a few times. My expectation is that this thing is going to come back into this area, and that's where it's trying to head. It has some support up here. It will be important to see if it holds here or not, or trades lower. Now, if I look at this, this looks like an ABCD structure just formed today. And what was all this off of? Well, it was the GDP today that came in at 5% versus 3.9, I believe, was the expectation. So the revision was very big, and this market believes, rightly or wrongly, believes this U.S. market or U.S. economy is firing on all cylinders. That looks to me like it's going to push right back into these lows. That low is 121.84, 121.44. I would expect it to try to get back into that zone. Pushing over while we're here, let's look at the junk bonds. And they're testing. They're testing right into that low now. So this is the test. This is going to be very hard to get over. I suspect these will fall back. 39.06. The low over here was 38.93, and the close tonight was 38.96. So you can see you're right into the thick of what should be a tough resistance zone. High quality corporate bonds, sell off. Don't want that stuff, huh? And let's quickly take a look at these two currencies. So the FXY cannot lift, coming right back, and the FXE making new lows. This is a reflection of the expectation that the ECB is going to lower rates again. And this is a huge ABCD structure to the downside. And I'm going to pull up the monthly here in just a second. But if we go, it's from here, all the way from there, folks. That's a large one, right? Let's get the numbers on this guy. That is, okay, so at top is 135.17, 123. So that's 13, roughly 13 points off of this C point. That takes you to 104. Excuse me, 114. And we're at 119. Another 5 points. Now, if we look at the monthly, 114 is 119 is here. 118.79, and it's breaking this one now, or trying to. Wow, that's on the way to par, folks. I talked about this in an article sometime back. I don't know if it's still here on the front page or not. Glancing down here, I don't see it. But there was an article where I laid out the fact that this is going to try to go to par. And it certainly looks like it to me. You could probably find it on here if you want. You could just search for it. Oh, here it is. Yeah, this is it here. So, in here I was talking about, the currencies and the worthlessness of all of them. And this break here is going to probably send this thing back to par. 20% decline. I wrote this thing back on November 7th. November 7th we were trading back in here about 123. Yep, it's heading down there. And I don't think you're going to see any relief until the ECB does whatever it does the first week, the end of the first week, which is about about 2 weeks away now. So more pressure is all I can see. Okay, so what do we got here? You know, when I look at all this, I don't see anything different. It looks to me like you're going to see this thing just keep grinding. I think tomorrow you get more of a sideways day and less up, especially on the Dow and the listed issues. And you know, maybe a little pullback on the NDX, NASDAQ, or if they're more bullish, then they simply go sideways. But you know, from everything I see, nothing's different to me. This market's going to try to grind right up until the end of the year. Folks, thanks for joining me. You tell a friend or tell two. Have yourself a great holidays. Take care, be safe, and I'll see you when I get back. Good night, folks.